Welcome to the Occupational Safety Leadership Podcast, episode number 321. And today's we'll sit down and talk about the Hazard Snapshot Method for supervisors. But before we get started, if you're getting anything out of this, please like, subscribe, shoot me a comment, anything that we can do to get more visibility, to get the word out better. My goal is for everybody to be a better safety professional than I am. Doing everything I can to provide some lessons learned. I have done some things that are really dumb in hindsight. Sounded like a great idea when I was doing it. Nobody ever got hurt, but I also realized that time was spent, money was spent in this late endeavor. So anything we can do to make the workplace safer, have people have less occupational diseases, all that good stuff. That's exactly what my goal is. I want everybody to do a better job than I did at being a safety professional. So let's go ahead there and kick it off. We'll talk about the Hazard Snapshot Method for supervisors. I've seen this used at a couple of different workplaces. I thought that it was pretty good. I'm never going to say perfect, of course, because anytime that safety is not your primary goal, and of course we like to think that supervisors, that the primary goal is safety for them, and in a perfect world, it really is. But I understand that safety is just one of many things these supervisors are juggling. So it's our role as safety professionals, help educate them, help do everything we can to make them a better supervisor. And part of that, of course, is obviously protecting your people, protecting the equipment from damage, all that good stuff then. So in the hazard snapshot method, I've seen it used in a 30-second, 60-second, and a 90-second format. I'm not going to say there's like a one size fits all. To me, it seems better if you have a longer time, but I also understand that just like the word says, it literally is a snapshot. Just like we can sit down and we can test those emergency lights every single day. Well, at one point it just doesn't work. Well, how can it be? I tested it yesterday, So like all things, you're seeing a snapshot here. And so in this method here, there's going to be 3 steps. And so part of these steps, the first step is the person's going to scan the work site. I know they come in different sizes, and some of them are outside and they're inside and lots of different hazards. But the big thing they're looking for, of course, are the obvious hazards. Are the people safe? They want to look for the different tools, equipment, working conditions. Is it going to be outside in the rain and the snow or the heat and things? So we want to look for all these really obvious hazards up front. Step 2, we want to assess. We want to sit down and say we now have a potential exposure and severity, and how likely is it that somebody is going to face severe harm then. So I like to think that at some point in time that exposure is 0, but I know that's just not a realistic scenario then. So just given working outside, people slip on ice and snow just working outside. So at times I know it's just not a likely scenario that we can say that it's going to be 100% 0 then. Step 3, we're going to sit down and we're going to act on what we find. Some things we're going to fix, some things we're going to control. So we're going to do a better job than what we have currently. So we're controlling what the issue is. And in some cases, of course, it is not acceptable what the supervisor finds. And so it's going to be a stop. We're stopping everything. We're going to sit down and say, following things are done, now that it's safe, we go right back to working again then afterwards. So, and I know for supervisors that's hard because of course they're obviously focused on a lot of things, but just to sit down, spend those 30, 60, or 90 seconds. So, and part of it, of course, is that as a supervisor, you will probably visit that, we'll call it that area. You're in the factory, you're in the chemical lab, so we'll call it the area. You're going to end up visiting that probably multiple times a day. So when you come back, of course, you're going to think to yourself, what changed since the last time that I walked through here? I'm looking at the people, the the equipment. In this case, of course, we're inside, but if we were outside, have the conditions changed? Have the conditions changed on the inside now too? Second thing that we're going to ask is who is exposed right now? You know, do we have the person who's doing the work? Do we have a um, bystander? Do we have somebody who works in the area? They may not actually be doing the actual physical work. They're walking from point A to point B. They're pedestrians. Maybe they're operating a chemical process reasonably close. So they're in the area that all the work is happening in. So next we want to ask, what's the greatest control that we can do for the greatest risk? I'm sorry, so what's the control that we can do to reduce the greatest risk out there? So things have changed. Is it that now that things have changed, or possibly things have not changed? And are we going to look at coming up with a barrier? Because now we have some bystanders or others around. Um, has the operation changed? And now we have to look at additional or just different personal protective equipment then out there. Sometimes there's not going to be that one glove that works for every single operation out there. If anybody does come up with that one glove, I'll go halves with anybody out there, and we will bring that thing to market. But you're not going to find something that's great with hydrochloric acid, and yet it's going to be tough enough to carry a sharp object around, and then we're going to install some drywall. It's going to have the flexibility that you can climb a scaffold if you have to, or even the tactile, that fine tooth that you can do some soldering someplace. So there's not going to be a one size fits all. I shouldn't say one size. There's not going to be a one glove for every operation out there then. So, and part of this, of course, is that as we're doing this as supervisors, it might be kind of rough first couple times. But like all things, as you get better and better and better, you start to get the reps in, you start to really understand things. So at some point, you're training your eye, you're doing those observations so, and you're going to think about things on the people side, like, is PPE being used? Do I see some unusual behaviors? Is there going to be a worker, a bystander, or something that was not part of the plan out there? Like all things, we sit down, we have a plan to get started. We just don't show up and say, well, I guess we'll do something. Like maybe we'll build some scaffold or do some painting. I don't know what. So there's always going to be a plan out there, and part of the plan, of course, is that person competent and trained to do that operation as well. Not just from a safety aspect, but can they do that operation out there? So for the equipment, is there a guard that's missing now from the operation? Maybe part of the operation is to take off the guard. You know, that's okay. That's okay too. But part of it, of course, is have you locked out, tagged out? Have you done all those kinds of things? Out there then. So if you're going to do any burning and welding, is your fire watch there still? Did something change? Or you figured out a way that what you're going to do is take the work outside. You'll do all that outside, lessen your fire severity and potential and all that stuff, and then you'll bring the work back inside. I like to do that, but I know that's not always something that can happen out there then. So, and then the environment, we've talked a lot about weather, but maybe we've introduced some slip, trips, and falls. Maybe we now have lighting that's not sufficient. So if you're going to go back and start locking out, tagging out stuff, at some point you could be turning off the lights. So we need to bring in some portable lights, some portable power out there too then. Um, have we sat down and altered the traffic flow? If you kind of think about like a warehouse and other things, there's going to be a flow for forklifts. There's going to be a flow of how the work flows. Have we altered that? Because we could be thinking that we're fixing something, and what we've now done is cause all these other cascading potential safety issues. And so um, that's it for the hazard snapshot method. So I've seen it work really good. I'm not going to say there's like a perfect time frame. That's why I'm always a little hesitant about do I tell people we should take you 30 seconds or 90, or because to me, I want you to do a good job, not look at your watch and say, "Ka-ching, my time's up." I'm ready to go on to the next task then. So, but real fast before we wrap up, let's talk about the 3 steps. First step, we're going to scan the area. Second step, we're going to assess and look for any exposures, severity, all that good stuff that we can have out there then. So step 3, we act on that. What are we going to do to reduce it to the absolute lowest we possibly can? Do we need to put in a couple of interim controls until we have permanent controls? Or is it something that the work site has now turned into an unsafe work site, and so we're going to stop work because now it is not up to standard. We are going to fix that, and then we're going to go right back to work afterwards then. So those are going to be the 3 steps in the hazard snapshot method for supervisors. All right, I want to thank everybody for joining me today. Again, I hate to be that person that kind of harps on things, but if you could like, subscribe, I want people to be better than I am, and part of that, as bad as it sounds, is that you have to have some visibility. You have to have a way to get that word out. So, thank you so much, and have a safe day.